Gen Z is the laziest generation. Raise your hand if you've heard that before. Looking around the room, many of you raised your hand. Yet, are any of us surprised? No. This narrative has been pushed over and over again, in the classroom, the newsroom, and even the living room. As a young man, challenged by how one should identify, I questioned this narrative. I thought to myself, where did this narrative originate from, and how is it that even members of Gen Z believe this? Personally, I see my friends working hard every day, attending weekly practices and engaging in new, fulfilling subjects. Thus, I speculated, is my generation, Gen Z, truly lazy, or are we in fact misunderstood? Gen Z can be described as the generation of quirkiness. Our formidable experiences differ from those of the past. You see, technology is our power, but it's also our Achilles heel. And I say this because although it has brought fruitious opportunities, it has also brought challenges. Jerome Powell, chairman of the Federal Reserve, stated that Gen Z is facing a genuine hiring nightmare. Now, he believes that this is tied to a low hire, low fire job market, the rapid automation of entry-level jobs, and a workforce that's getting older as Gen Z's presence shrinks. When employers expand more on their opinion about Gen Z, their answers are relatively similar. Gen Z lacks eye contact. Gen Z has poor interview etiquette. And some even say that Gen Z comes off as entitled or unprepared. Yet, nothing can be understood without context. And in this setting, context shifts the narrative. In 2020, Gen Z became lab rats, piloting a new era, an era of solitude. For myself, a fifth grader, who the year before was a young, curious fourth grader, always asking his leadership teacher questions. What is this? What happened to this? What can I do to become this? Suddenly, these questions became burdens, and my curiosity had been shackled into solitude. Now, I am one example in an entire generation, a generation which was shaped by one shared experience. And I ultimately believe that this has led to our misperceivement within society. Yet, I believe there is a solution. And that solution is ascertaining a hidden trait called grit. Grit can be defined as the consistent passion and perseverance to chase long-term goals with no immediate gratification. Now, grit is an interesting thing. When enacted correctly, it can truly change someone. It can truly fuel one's everyday interactions with the world around them. Grit, although this may sound like a foreign characteristic, has been studied throughout history. Ancient Greek philosopher Aristotle approached grit as a virtue. He believed that true excellence comes from choosing discipline or courage. Grit is interesting. It is unique, and it is powerful. Throughout history, grit has been seen through leaders such as Napoleon Bonaparte and his rise to power, George Washington's retreat across the Potomac, and Martin Luther King Jr.'s persistent fight for African American rights. What makes you different from these people? Truly, what does? Put the distractions away. The wasteful social media trends, the idolization of fake personalities, and you'll find that you're not much different than the individuals listed before. In order to achieve success in an ever-changing society, Gen Z must utilize grit. Yet, we do utilize grit in some settings, but it isn't necessarily perceived well. A common example of Gen Z utilizing grit is each year, millions of high school juniors and seniors across the country enter into one of the most consequential cycles of their entire lives. The college admission cycle has inadvertently transformed the high school experience with Gen Z applicants at its core. Sure, we have the football games, the dances, the high school jobs, but now we have congressional internships. We have 15-year-olds founding nonprofits, and we have 6 to 8 periods a day of advanced college-level classes. If that's not grit, then I don't know what is. You see, it's the challenging aspects of our lives that we must pursue. So I say to you today, members of Gen Z, challenge yourself. Truly work towards a goal with no immediate gratification. Use technology, but also target traditional methods of communication. Don't be afraid of public speaking, presentations, or even networking and coffee chats. In fact, our generation is more prepared than any for these tasks. Use AI as a tool, not a crutch. Showcase your work ethic day in and day out. That is how my generation, Gen Z, will leave a mark on this world. Gen Z is not lazy. In fact, we are the opposite. We are the most resilient generation to date, which has gone through events no one saw coming. So Gen Z, we have the world in our pocket, yet we are questioned over and over again. It's time to switch that narrative and chase our destiny. Thank you.